There's a version of you who walks into a room and doesn't shrink, not because they're loud, but because they're aligned. Their presence hums at a frequency that rearranges the air. Their words don't beg for belief. They simply land. And here's the quiet truth no one whispers loud enough. That version isn't a dream. They're not waiting in some distant future you'll never reach. They're already standing in your tomorrow, and the distance between you and them? It's closing with every breath you take right now. This moment, the one where you're tired, uncertain, maybe even doubting your timing. This is the very ground they'll one day call their turning point. The struggle you're in. They'll name it sacred initiation, the fear you're facing. They've already alchemized it into certainty. So what bridges the gap between who you are and who you're becoming? Not talent, not luck, not perfect timing. It's something quieter, deeper. Authorization. The permission to stop folding yourself into shapes that fit other people's ceilings. To stop explaining your worth to those who can't see your light. To stop dimming your brilliance just because someone else hasn't lit their own flame yet. The future you doesn't wait for an invitation. They don't seek approval to occupy the space they were born for. They simply are, fully, unapologetically, radiantly. And here's the shift that changes everything. They're not coming back to save you. You are becoming them. Every wound you've carried is forging their resilience. Every fall you've risen from is laying their foundation. Every time you chose courage over comfort is crystallizing into their unwavering truth. So stop looking for them on the horizon. Start embodying them here, now, in this breath. Because you were never behind. You didn't miss your moment. You didn't arrive too late to your own life. You showed up exactly when you were meant to. Think of all the times you believed you'd missed your chance when others seemed ahead, and you felt that ache of not enough, of starting too late, of chasing a finish line that kept moving. That story, it's not truth. It's a distortion born from a misunderstanding of time itself. We've been taught to worship clock time. You should have had it figured out by 30. Your window is closing. Everyone else is already there. But that's not the time your soul lives in. Beneath the surface, in the quiet chambers of your becoming, another timeline is unfolding. Quantum time. Here, every detour was direction. Every delay was preparation. Every season of stillness was your nervous system, expanding, making space to hold the life you've been calling in. Your consciousness has been reorganizing in silence, rewiring through neuroplasticity, upgrading your inner software so you can sustain the reality your heart desires. In this time, you're not late, you're precisely on schedule. Remember the caterpillar in the chrysalis. From the outside, it looks like collapse, like failure, but inside, total reorganization, cells dissolving, structures melting, so something entirely new can emerge. There's no rushing metamorphosis. The butterfly doesn't arrive early. It arrives ready. Your life works the same way. Those seasons when you felt lost, stuck, invisible, you weren't stagnant. You were restructuring. The universe doesn't run on your ego's calendar. It runs on readiness, on energetic alignment, on whether the version of you today can hold the gift you're asking for tomorrow. Sometimes, what feels like rejection is actually protection. That job you didn't get 5 years ago, maybe it would have trapped you in a version of yourself you needed to outgrow. That relationship that ended, maybe it was making space for a love that asks you to expand, not shrink. And those years you thought you wasted, wandering, questioning, healing in silence, you weren't lost. You were gathering, kindling, composting, pain into purpose, building an inner library only lived experience can write. You were never late. You were in the holy delay, the sacred pause, the divine detour that looks like failure from the outside but is, in truth, the exact path your soul needed to arrive where you're being called. And your future self knows this. They remember your doubt, your when. From where they stand, they see how perfectly it all unfolded. Every setback was a setup. Every wasted hour was weaving an invisible thread into a tapestry your present eyes can't yet see. They're not frustrated with your pace. They're watching you with tenderness because they know you cannot skip steps in consciousness. You can't rush readiness. You can't force evolution without cracking your foundation. That's why sometimes you manifest a dream and just as quickly it slips through your fingers, not because you're unworthy, but because the you of that moment wasn't yet strong enough to hold it. The pressure you feel to be further along, that's not your future self speaking. That's your wounded ego, still trying to prove itself to people who never saw you. But your future self, they speak a different language, not of fear, but of trust, not of lack, but of surrender. They're not anxious about your timeline. They're certain of your arrival, because they are your arrival. So, what if you stopped fighting your timing? What if you stopped comparing your chapter 10 to someone else's chapter 30 and honored the truth? You're exactly where you need to before the lessons your soul chose before you were born. This isn't a waiting room. This is your training ground. While you thought you were stuck, you were rewiring your nervous system, healing ancestral wounds, developing discernment, that quiet inner compass that will one day save you from years of misalignment. You were becoming coherent, not loud, not fast, but deeply, quietly aligned. And readiness doesn't follow a calendar. It arrives in quantum leaps, sudden shifts where everything clicks. Opportunities that ignored you last year find you, not because the world changed, but because your frequency did. This is the unseen alchemy, the pressure turning coal into diamond, the seed trusting the dark before it breaks ground, the caterpillar dissolving so the butterfly can remember its wings. You can't rush this, you can only trust it. So let me ask you, what if you're not late, but early? What if you're already here, ahead of schedule, waiting for the reality behind the door to finish being built? What if the doors haven't opened, not because you're unworthy, but because the rooms behind them are still being prepared for you? I know it's hard, when others seem to glide while you're still learning to stand, when recognition flows to everyone but you, when silence echoes where you hoped for a call. But what if you shifted your question? Instead of, why is this taking so long? Ask, what is this preparing me for? Instead of, why am I not there yet? Ask, who am I becoming in the meantime? Because your life isn't waiting to begin. This is it. This uncertainty. This longing. This quiet courage to keep going, even when you can't see the path. This isn't the prelude. This is the poem. And the more you resist it, the more you suffer, but the more you lean in, trusting the intelligence of your unfolding, the more you align with the field that's been holding you all along. So right now, I invite you, pause, breathe, and whisper to the universe. I arrived exactly when I needed to. Arrive. Let that be your declaration, your quantum ripple, your conscious choice to step out of the timeline of shame and into the sacred rhythm of your soul. Because when you truly accept this, when you stop fighting where you are and start honoring it as holy ground, something shifts. The pressure lifts, comparison fades. And in that open space, you become available not just to receive, but to embody the life you've been calling in. Remember, you don't attract what you want, you attract what you are. If you vibrate, I'm late, I'm behind, I've missed my chance, that's the reality you broadcast. But if you anchor in, I trust my timing, I am ready, everything is unfolding. You're not just changing your thoughts, you're changing your frequency, and the universe responds, not to your wishes, but to your resonance. You're not just observing your reality, you're actively participating in creating it through the lens you choose to look through. So when you keep telling yourself you're late, you're collapsing the wave function into that reality. You're selecting that timeline from the field of infinite possibilities and making it solid, real, lived. Then you look around and find evidence to support it. You notice everyone who seems further along. You highlight every opportunity you missed. You emphasize every year that passed without the progress you expected. And the more evidence you find, the more real that timeline becomes, until it feels like absolute truth rather than one possible interpretation among many. But you have the power to collapse a different timeline. 2. Select a different possibility from the field. 2. Choose to observe yourself as exactly on time, as perfectly positioned, as moving at the precise pace your soul needs. And when you do that consistently, when you train your awareness to look for evidence of perfect timing instead of evidence of delay, you literally shift into a different reality. Not because the external facts changed, but because your relationship to those facts transformed. And your relationship to reality is what creates your experience of it. So how do you actually do this? It starts with awareness, with catching yourself every time you slip into the old story, every time you think, I should be further along by now. Pause. Notice that thought. Don't judge it. Don't fight it. Just see it for what it is, a thought, one possible interpretation, not truth, not fact. Just a story your mind is telling based on conditioning, comparison, fear. Then consciously choose a different thought. Not a fake thought you don't believe, not toxic positivity that bypasses real feelings, but a thought that's equally true and serves you better. I'm learning what I need to learn right now. I'm developing qualities I'll need later. This is part of my path, not a deviation from it. These aren't lies. They're perspective shifts. They're choosing to collapse a timeline that empowers you instead of one that diminishes you. And you do this over and over again, not once. Not as a one-time decision, but as a practice, as a moment-by-moment choice to redirect your awareness toward the version of reality that supports your growth rather than sabotages it. And gradually, imperceptibly at first, your experience starts to shift. The anxiety lessens, the comparison loses its grip, the pressure to be somewhere other than where you are releases its hold, and in that release, in that softening, you become available for what's trying to reach you. You become open to opportunities you would have missed when you were contracted in fear and urgency. This is the real work. Not achieving more, not moving faster, not forcing yourself to be further along, but shifting your state, changing your frequency, choosing a different relationship with where you are. And that shift, that internal recalibration, is what creates sustainable transformation. That's what allows you to build something real, something lasting, something that doesn't collapse the moment you face a challenge. Because here's what happens to people who try to skip this step, who try to rush to the destination without doing the internal work. They get there, and they can't hold it. They manifest the relationship, but sabotage it because their nervous system isn't calibrated for healthy intimacy. They achieve the success but burn out because they haven't learned to move from rest instead of from depletion. They reach the goal but feel empty because they base their worth on external achievement instead of internal knowing. You're not being delayed, you're being prepared, and the preparation isn't punishment, it's protection. It's the universe loving you enough to not give you things before you're ready to sustain them. The waiting isn't wasted time, it's integration. Time, it's the space between planting and harvest where roots grow deep beneath the surface, invisible but essential. You can't see the roots, you can't measure their progress, but without them, the plant topples over the moment wind comes. With them, it stands strong through storms. The waiting is root growth, and you need deep roots for the life you're calling in. Think about athletes training for the Olympics. They don't just show up and compete. They spend years, sometimes decades, preparing their bodies, their minds, their spirits for the moment when it all matters. And during those years, they're not behind, they're not late. They're in exactly the phase they need to be in, training, building, strengthening, developing the capacity to perform at levels that would destroy someone who hasn't put in the preparation. Your life is the same. You're in training, and every challenge, every setback, every moment of doubt, it's all part of the training program. It's all building capacity. It's all strengthening you for what's coming. You can resist it. You can wish you were already at the competition. You can compare yourself to people who seem further along, or you can be present to the training itself. You can extract the lesson. You can develop the muscle. You can trust that when your moment comes, you'll be ready because you did the work that readiness requires. So drop one word in the comments below, one word that captures the energy you're choosing to embody. Trust, surrender, rooted, aligned, becoming. Let it be your declaration to the quantum field, a signature of who you're deciding to be, regardless of circumstance. And if this space feels like a homecoming, subscribe, not just to the channel, but to this frequency, to this reminder that you are not behind, that your path is not wrong, that your timing is sacred, because the world will keep shouting, hurry, compare, achieve, prove. But here, we remember you are already whole, already worthy, already on time, and the version of you you've been chasing, the one with unshakable confidence, deep peace, quiet certainty, they're not waiting on the other side of your goals. They're available to you right now. That confidence you think will come after you succeed. You can access it now by deciding you're worthy of it, with or without applause. That peace you believe will arrive once everything works out. You can choose it now by releasing your resistance to what is and trusting that even the unseen is unfolding in your favor. This is the quiet paradox of transformation. You don't become worthy through achievement. You achieve through worthiness, claimed, not earned. You don't gain confidence from success. You create success by embodying confidence before the world gives you proof. You don't arrive at peace through control. You find it in surrender, in trusting the intelligence that holds you even when you can't hold yourself. And when you make that shift, when you stop waiting for life to change before you give yourself permission to be, everything accelerates, not because you suddenly do more, but because you finally align. And alignment is magnetic. You were never late. You arrived exactly on time, and everything from here unfolds in perfect sequence. Trust that, embody that, live from that, and watch what happens.